This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, your pop culture home.
Yeah, Frank here has got his own billiard room.
Yes, it's what do you call it, Kramer?
Billiard room.
No, not billiard, not the billiards. It was
billiards room.
Come on already. Come on, we call it the
place to be.
The place to be. Yes, the place to be.
Then I shall be there.
Now, it's time. Live and in living color.
The Grandy Man can.
Time to play the game!
Well, you always left me satisfied and smiling, so...
That's what she said.
Why do I want this? I want to make bank, bro. I want to get ass. I want to drive a Range Rover.
Place to Be Nation, Scott Criscola and Justin Rosero. This is the Place to Be Podcast.
Very nice, Mr. Crisbola.
Oh, I'm sorry, Dennis.
D'Lo Brown interfered with a frog splash and hit it on Severin, getting some revenge.
I know.
What the hell was it? What was that laugh? It was like an old cartoon fucking Hanna-Barbera dog or something. It was like Snidely. Was that the fucking dog that laughed like that?
JR's got a little more time than I do to sit and actually write a whole show.
This is the third time you said it to me today. Now I'm really curious.
Well, I'm not saying that you have nothing to do. I'm just saying
I'm curious how I have more free time than you. What does that mean? I don't know. I know it's been a rough, and I'm not used to this long, grueling podcast schedule.
Oh, for fuck's sakes. Are you going to just joking on for the next hour?
Come on. Did you say D'Amato, late 20s, 30s?
It was big.
And you included yourself in that as well?
I was big nice to him. I am still technically in my 30s.
I think they might hit a shock wall.
What the fuck is a shock wall?
Is that the Shockmaster's wall?
He's going to fall through the shock wall.
Yeah, I like Big Dick myself. PTB Nation, let me know what
Here's
you're
our opener.
To do worse than Josh
Let
Richard.
me see him. Notorious for the 6'5s and the BMs. Heads give you beef, you put them in the mausoleum. And shit don't start jumping till after 12 p.m. Ignorant minds are free 'em. If you tired of the same old every day, you will agree 'em. The most obligated, hard and R-rated. Slated to be the best, I must confess the star made it. Somebody even say the song is sexist, cause I ask the girls to rub on the breasts. Whether you're riding a train or a Lexus, this is for either or rollies or Timexes. It's wicked like Exorcist, this is the joint. You holding up the wall and you're missing the point. Get the fuck up!
Place to Be Nation, welcome back to another great episode of the one and only Place to Be Podcast. I am your co-host, Justin Rosero, coming at you live on this Sunday evening inside the PTB Man Cave. We have some NFL action going on, a big game. In fact, it's the 8-1 Broncos battle the 8-0 or 9-0. 8-0? 9-0? Undefeated. And the man who's also undefeated in all things football, that is Dr. Scott. Scott, how you doing?
Good evening, JR. Good evening, Place to Be Nation. Welcome to episode 270.
Getting there.
Of the Place to Be Podcast. We are getting up there to the magic 3 bills. Big time. And I think we've had, if you add up, JR, in terms of number of people, I think these last 3 shows combined is the largest group of people in a 7-day stretch on the air in the history of the Place to Be Podcast.
Yeah, most likely, at least at one time. So, and we've had some supersized episodes last week. Probably another one tonight, and then later this week we'll probably have a pretty quick and clean headlines for you on Tuesday as we preview Survivor Series. Scott, I'm glad we have like 17 people on tonight because I recorded a few episodes of Richard and the Mailman today, so I am hurting as I stepped in for Mr. Machado, me and Mr. Flanagan. So look for that this week. If you like hearing me, if you don't get enough of JR, you can hear me chatting. You can hear me chatting. Shooting the shit with Mr. Richer and Mr. Flanagan, and a lot of different topics that we talk about here, Scott. But something good. I think you'll enjoy. We did what's called the Moliseum moment, and we explained the different things in the Moliseum video. So
excellent! Looking forward to that.
Interesting there.
Absolutely.
So, all right, let's get right to it. So we have a bunch of gentlemen on tonight. I believe. What do we have? 5 in addition to us. Yes, 5.
Yes.
Okay. So we have 5 guys in addition to us, and they're all here because they're all very, very generous, as were many of you. With the breast cancer walk donation collection I did. And these guys were the top donors. And as a result of that, they were invited to join us here tonight for one of our awesome, as usual, roundtables leading into a pay-per-view. And also, I want to give special props to the first man we're going to bring in, and as he was the top donor. And I recently just sent him a little DVD prize pack, shipped that out yesterday, and that is Mr. Mike Rudh. Mike, welcome back.
Thanks, Justin. It's good to be back on. I was on Royal Rumble 99 was my premiere.
Can you believe how far it seems like you were just on, and we're already at Rumble 01. We're back with WrestleMania 17, so It's already been 2 years worth of vault since you've been on, but it seems like yesterday.
Yeah, thanks. Again, you guys made a lot of strides since then. I mean, with the new PTB Nation site and everything. So
yeah,
my compliments. Thanks.
Crazy to think that wasn't even invented. I don't think when you were on. So a lot has happened, sir. A lot has happened, and hopefully you enjoy your little prize back. And again, thank you for your generous donation. Okay, up next, barely survived the tornado, but he's here with us today, and that is Mr. Ryan Everett. Ryan, welcome back.
Thank you very much. Can you guys hear me? I got my headphones in now, so am I okay?
You sound good.
All right, great. Good. Yeah, I don't want my fiance doesn't really want to listen to the whole thing.
Oh,
well, I don't want to spoil it for her when she listens to the whole show tomorrow.
Okay, that's better.
Good,
yeah.
Good.
All right.
I'm good. I made it.
Good. Yes, we are glad to hear. We have another man with us that dodged the tornado today, and that is our good friend, one of our PlaceToBeNation.com writers. And actually, I should mention Ryan Everett, also on the staff at PlaceToBeNation.com. But also with us here is Mr. Steve Willie. Mr. Willie, how are you?
Good. I'm doing really well. And especially after the Bears' victory, right, Ryan?
Oh, yeah. Making that march to the first round playoffs loss.
Yes.
And Willie, it's interesting. You still have your Halloween costume on. Why is that?
I just sit around all day wearing my Yo Gabba Gabba.
just waiting to appear on here. It's either that or dancing to ACH's music. That's it. That's the only two things you do. All right. Who else we got here? Of course, we have one of the great contenders in the PTB Trivia Tournament. I believe he made it to the finals, if I'm correct there, Scott. And that is Mr. Ryan Schmauch. Ryan, welcome back.
I'm doing good, guys. I didn't make it to the finals, but I guarantee I'll make it to the finals in 2014.
Who was in the finals then? I can't remember.
I made it to the finals.
Was that you, Everett?
Yeah.
The other Ryan. Yes.
The hardcore Holly screwed me over.
That's right.
His welder career.
That's right. Schmauch, though, you did a good job with yours. You had a battle with Poolin, if I remember.
Yes, it was.
Yeah, I think that was like 25 round or something.
Something crazy. Yeah. All right. Also joining us, we have Mr. Sean Zern. Sean, welcome aboard.
Hey, thanks for having me on, guys.
Thanks for being here. It's been a while since we talked to you, sir.
Yes.
And
definitely.
Of course, the one and only, the OG of PTB Nation, the man who's been here since day one. Haven't heard him in a while. Last time you may have heard him was singing duets and grilling El Giante and Ludwig Borga. There's, of course, the great Mr. J. Arsenio D'Amato. Mr. D'Amato, welcome back.
P.I. motherfucking C's. Always an honor. And Knights of the Round Table, good evening.
Mr. D'Amato in the house.
D'Amato.
All right, guys, as you all know, Survivor Series, just a week away. We're kicking off Survivor Series week here on PlaceToBeNation.com. We're going to have all kinds of articles and pieces. And just to let you guys in on a secret, I actually did a pretty lengthy article about Ludwig Borga and Tatanka and the undefeated streak that was ending. So that's coming this week. So hopefully you'll enjoy that.
Is entrance music embedded in the link?
Not maybe the entrance music, but there are some good promo clips involved in there. So,
all right.
And I am dead serious about that. That is not a joke. That article is coming this weekend. We have a lot of good Survivor Series stuff coming this week. So hopefully you guys will check that out.
Fat bottom girls.
Always.
An interesting thing about next Sunday's Survivor Series, it's taking place on the 30th anniversary of the first Starrcade.
Oh, interesting. Cool, and it's also the 20th anniversary from the last time they were in Boston, correct, for Survivor Series? No, I'm sorry, not the last time, but the first time.
No, we were there 5 years ago.
Right, but the first time they were there, 1993.
Yes, 1993, yep.
Okay, so like we did for WrestleMania, like we did for SummerSlam, we are here to do an old-school Survivor Series roundtable chat. We have a list of questions. We're going to go around the horn. We're going to talk about some of our favorite memories of the older shows and some newer ones. But I have a feeling it'll be a lot of old school chat here. So, all right, I'm going to throw this one out here, and I'm going to apologize now because it's a lot to keep track of. I'm going to make sure I catch everyone, and if I don't, just call me out and speak up. So let's start. We'll start with the oldest, and amazingly, Scott, for you, I don't think you are today, right?
No.
All right, Mr. D'Amato, that's it. I'm
second for the first time.
That means I'm calling you out on the stand here. What Survivor Series was the first one you watched on pay-per-view?
Well, obviously it's 87. The very first one. I was a young man of 20 at the time. And I watched it on Scramble Vision, which, for you guys that are too young, you might not know about it. It's, when... we didn't have the capabilities of the pay-per-view, but we just had the channel, and it was like scrambled. And I kind of listened along. So the very first one,
Otherwise known as the infamous squiggly lines.
Yeah, definitely. You could relate, Scott. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
so
definitely.
Definitely the very first one, and just building up to it is amazing. How they set up the elimination matches.
All right, Mr. Zern, how about you?
95 was the first one I saw live. We got one of those black boxes, so that's when we started watching. I started watching every pay-per-view around then. So,
what was the first one you were a fan for?
Oh my God, probably like 92,
okay.
91, 92. Not 91. It was the Hogan Undertaker thing that really got me into it. So,
all right, how about you, Everett?
Well, when I was very young, in 1990 in October, that's when I started watching wrestling. First thing I ever saw about wrestling was flipping through the channels and saw the model spray Jake the Snake's eyes with the arrogance on the Brother Love show. Ended up watching all of that Superstars, and then from there on, I was hooked. Watched Superstars the next couple of weeks. Knew Survivor Series was happening, but didn't watch the 90 Survivor Series because it was Thanksgiving night and I was going to my cousin's house. My cousin was a big wrestling fan, so he gave me like 4 or 5 tapes that I watched like that whole weekend like 80 times. And then 91 Survivor Series was the first time I realized that you could do scramble vision. And I mean, that's how I pretty much watched almost every pay-per-view for the next, 10 years or so.
Amazing to think.
Outside of the very few that I was able to order. And the first one that I was able to rope my dad into buying was the 92 Survivor Series. And when it was the night before Thanksgiving, which was good because all the uncles came over, got drunk, and watched a pay-per-view that they didn't know what the hell was going on. But it was fun.
Those are the best ones.
And then the next night they came over and ate turkey and got drunk and made fun of the wrestling that they saw the night before. So that was a fun family tradition that we started.
That's cool, and it sounds like Survivor Series was kind of a hallmark in your growing as a fan, like 91.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was
or 90. You found out, you were kind of aware. And then 91, you had the box, and then 92, your first one you saw.
Yeah, each one had like a little touchstone in my my growth as a fan, I guess you could say.
All right, how about you, Schmauch?
Well, at first it was like 1994 Scramble, but the first one I actually saw was by accident in 1996. The cable company somehow screwed up the thing or whatever, and it was all crystal clear audio, and I got to watch a history-making event, but unfortunately I didn't record it. But I actually got that for free.
That must have been like the biggest surprise of all time. Just to turn the TV on and there's the pay-per-view.
Yeah, it was like Scramble, and then all of a sudden it went to crystal clear. Because I used to watch most of the pay-per-views, the Scramble, because you can hear the audio quite clearly. But for some reason it just changed, and you can see the entire picture. It was like it like changed like joint in progress during the pay-per-view, and then I just watched the encore from beginning to end.
Yeah, I used to do a lot of WCW pay-per-views. It was so, like you said, the audio was so clear. I would just like do homework or whatever and just listen to the pay-per-view. It was kind of my monthly Sunday tradition for WCW shows. Mr. Mike Rudh, what was the first one you were a fan for, and what was the first one you watched live?
1990 for both. I became a fan around WrestleMania 6 and pretty much ordered every pay-per-view up until, 95.
And Mr. Willie, how about you?
I was 1987. That was the first pay-per-view I ever got to see. I had a friend watch it on Thanksgiving, and he gave me the VHS tape a few days later. So I essentially watched it live because it wasn't like there was any spoilers back then.
Right.
Right.
Scott, well, yours is obviously 87 right now. Did you order that one live, or?
No, believe it or not, because I went out every Thanksgiving night to my aunt's. The first one I watched live, believe it or not, was 1996.
Wow.
At Madison Square Garden. Yeah, the others, all the rest, I rented at my video store the next month. But yeah, I mean, I've watched all of them. I watched them all every year, like a month later. But the first one I watched live was the one in Madison Square Garden in 1996.
Well, first one, obviously, I was a fan for was 90. 91, I think I watched Scrambled because I remember Taker winning the title with Flair and all that. I remember listening to it. And then 92, I saw live at my cousin ordered it. And then starting in 93, those next two, 93 and 94, were kind of my joint birthday party / older Survivor Series. So I had a bunch of guys over for those. So those are two of my favorite shows I ever watched live. Was on 93 and 94 because we had a group over to watch it. So that was pretty cool. All right, so who here, and I'll just kind of open it up and we'll just go around quick. Who actually ever watched one on Thanksgiving night? I can say I never did. Willie, obviously, you said you watched 87 on a couple-day delay, but were there any of the Thanksgiving night ones? So I guess I'm saying what? Excuse me, 87 through 90 were Thanksgiving night, I believe, right? 91 is when they started Thanksgiving Eve.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
All right, so Willie, did you watch any of those first four live on Thanksgiving night?
Definitely not. There was no way that I would have been able to do that. And I actually, when I was going back this week and looking at some of the previous ones, 89 was in Chicago at the Horizon, and that was actually about the year where I got to go to one of my first house shows. So there would have been no way, though, that I would have been able to go with family stuff like Scott, which is sad because the Rose Horizon is about a mile away from where we celebrated Thanksgiving each year.
That was kind of crazy. So anyone else out there, you're going to speak up, I guess. Did anyone watch them live on Thanksgiving night? I'm guessing D'Amato did, obviously. Anyone else?
No,
I watched the 1990. So that was the last Thanksgiving night pay-per-view. And I think our family, we ate earlier, and usually it probably wouldn't have worked for me, but for whatever quirk it worked that year. So
I just watched, like I said, my cousin, he was like 7, and I was 4, so he was the coolest guy in the world to me. And so it was Thanksgiving 1990, when the pay-per-view was going on. We didn't know about Scramble Vision at the time yet. So I watched, actually, Survivor Series 88 and Survivor Series 89 on Thanksgiving, but it was, 2 years and a year after it had aired originally. But so it was cool to actually watch 2 Survivor Series on Thanksgiving for the first time, but they were in the can already, and everyone had changed affiliations from face to heel by 2 times by then.
Anyone else watch live Thanksgiving night? All right. What are the thoughts? Start with you, D'Amato. When they did change over from Thanksgiving night, was it a needed move? Do you think it was a smart move? I know Thanksgiving was always kind of a tradition in wrestling, with Starrcade and then into the early Survivor Series. Did you think it was smart to go to Thanksgiving Eve, though?
Yeah, because it's kind of like a holiday, or it's kind of like like a weekend night. So it's because Thursday it's a little people I guess are sleepy from eating and watching football all day. So kind of like the Wednesday before, it's kind of like it's kind of like a weekend. It's like a Friday night, and they know people are gonna be up late and have parties. So I thought it was a good deal for a lot better on Wednesdays.
I agree. I thought it worked well too. How about you, Rudh?
Yeah, I agree. I think that for a lot of people, it just wouldn't work out. It just too many family things on Thanksgiving Day.
So, Ryan Schmauch, let me ask you this: do you think the show lost any of its specialness when it moved to Sunday in 1995? Did you feel that it still felt like Survivor Series? Because at that point, it wasn't even always the week of Thanksgiving. I think even in '95, it was a couple weeks before. Do you think that kind of shattered that feeling?
I don't think it did, because you had the first 4 on Thanksgiving night, next 4 on Thanksgiving Eve. I think it's like it ran its course, because I guess to change with the times, I guess.
I remember I was pretty heartbroken when they switched. I loved the Thanksgiving Eve concept. The Sunday thing, especially a couple weeks before, to me, I remember being pretty upset that first year. It felt like they've slowly been taking a lot of the tradition out of those kind of things, and to me that was another blow.
They also changed the Survivor Series logo for '96, which was sort of like, I usually like the '89 to '95 logo. That was like the best logo.
Yeah, and even the song, they started to fade that out too. How about you, Sean? Did you feel the same way?
I liked it when it was on for Thanksgiving and Thanksgiving Eve. Like, even when I look back now, because I usually watch a lot of the older ones instead of the newer ones. But with the way the NFL is kind of blown up, the past 10 years or so, I feel like that would affect how the pay-per-view numbers would be. So But I mean, I kind of like I like it either the day before or on the night of Thanksgiving.
I agree. That's a good point. And Sean, I'm sorry I skipped you before. You know why? You're not on the Facebook list here, so I'm gonna keep forgetting you probably. So you're gonna need to just yell at me.
It's fine. It's cool.
But I think that's a great point about the football. I don't think they ever could have survived Thanksgiving night. Now Thanksgiving Eve,
Right.
I still think maybe could have worked. Willie, do you agree?
Yes and no. I mean, you think about, and maybe this is just my own personal experience that's bringing my bias in, but you don't usually watch wrestling pay-per-views with your family that much. It's more of a friend thing. At least that's what I remember from the Attitude Era and all that. And so your college kids, your people in your 20s, you're going to be going home. You're going to be by the family and that. So I think you got to get away from it. You mentioned the Thanksgiving night, the tradition of Starrcade. I remember like World Class would do their Star Wars on Thanksgiving and Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have a pay-per-view audience to deal with. They were just dealing with the live gates. So it's one thing to get people in the arena. It's a whole nother people to draw the numbers and the buy rates from around the country and around the world.
That's another great point too, and you're dead accurate on the a lot of people come home Thanksgiving weekend. That's always a big reunion weekend, and a lot of times the night after, but also the night before. That's a night where a lot of guys might meet up at the bar with their friends before Thanksgiving or go out, like you said. So yeah, maybe as you got towards the Attitude Era and the fans started to trend older, but not older, but late teens, early 20s. A lot of those guys are probably out that night. So you're right. I mean, the Sunday thing was probably necessary. You wonder if that really factored in or if they were just trying to make things uniform. Who hasn't weighed in on this one yet? Everett?
Yeah, I remember 93 and 94. Like, I think we had like, obviously that Thursday off from school. And I think like we usually had like a Cub Scout meeting or something on that Wednesday night, just because everyone was still around. And then afterwards, I remember at least those 2 years, we went to one of my friends' houses and we always got Survivor Series and we were going to do it in 95. And all of a sudden it was like, oh, Survivor, like 2 weeks earlier on Raw, we heard the announcement that Survivor Series was going to be like November 19th or whatever it was. And we were like, oh, I guess we're not going to watch Survivor Series this year because, we can't all go out till 10 o'clock on a Sunday because we're in third grade or whatever. It was weird. I figured like and even like that was the time like 94. I know the Rumble was on a Saturday night. I think SummerSlam was like a Monday night or something. Like
95 is when they made everything uniform.
Everything was Sunday starting in 95, and it was like, I mean, I don't know. I thought it was cool to have like different nights for stuff, instead of everything being Sunday. I mean, I can see nowadays why they do it, but it was cool back then, different things on different nights.
I agree. I think the reason they did it in 95 is because that's when they switched to monthly shows. And I wonder if we're just trying to build that, familiarity, knowing that, okay, Sunday, once a month, pay-per-view. It probably would have been a lot to try and keep track of if you're having different nights once you're doing monthly shows. I think through 94 worked because you only had 4 or 5 shows, and you can kind of get away with it. But I do think if you were going to keep one, this could have been the one, because it is so tied closer to Thanksgiving that people could have remembered is the one that's off.
Yeah, it's a big, Black Wednesday, everyone knows, I'm sure a lot of bars would have even been like, would have ate, what is it, $80 to get it on a pay-per-view or something and charge, $2 for people to come in. And, enough people, people say they're not wrestling fans, but if it's on TV, they'll watch it and get invested in it maybe,
Right.
I don't know.
All right, Scott, let me ask you this one, because you were obviously, watching at the time when Survivor Series started. What was your impression of the concept?
I thought it was pretty cool. I think it was kind of fun to culminate. First off, it needed a show. I mean, D'Amato, you remember that long gap between WrestleManias 2 and 3 felt like an eternity. There was a huge feud that year, Hogan and Paul Orndorff, that had no spectacular national show. I mean, yeah, they had the show in Toronto, but not many people saw that. But for this, the concept of having like teams and kind of setting up heels and faces, I thought it was pretty cool. I thought it was pretty cool that we had like team concepts, and obviously the guy that sold it the best was Jesse. Grill and Jesse obviously are great at everything, and setting up the concept of teams and having Bobby's guys and you had Jimmy Hart's guys and all the baby faces, and you had like the main event guys and the mid card guys. It was a great way to categorize the roster, and have them kind of go heads up. I like the concept a lot.
How about you, D'Amato?
Oh my God, I was like orgasmic. I mean, about the concept.
You're orgasmic about everything, so I don't know.
Pretty much, but anyway, to give a little history lesson, like in '87, before WrestleMania 3, they went around the circuit of the house shows and they experimented with these six-man elimination matches. This was like a new thing for me. I was and they were amazing. Like I went to a house show. It was billed as like Piper's last MSG match, and it was Piper, JYD, and Steamboat versus Savage, Adonis, and Race, and that match was amazing, man. Like when you put up on the Facebook, amazing. When you put up on the Facebook, like one of the most watched matches that you watched, like that's one that I ran into the ground, and that was like it was such a great concept, and they were very successful. So I guess they saw it and they ran with it.
How about you, Willie? Did you, when you started watching again, another guy that was kind of watching at the time, did you feel you liked the concept at the time?
Definitely, it was something different than we would only get like superstars, and I didn't have USA. That was USA back then. So all I would get was superstars, and just to see single matches and tag team matches, and I had these huge multi-man matches was something you'd never seen before. And to have them, of course, then go like half hour each of the matches as well was amazing. And you could also feature different talent. It wasn't just the Hogan show. It ended up being the Hogan show at the end a lot of times, but the first one with Bam Bam Bigelow being featured more, and just having different guys.
All right, so in 91 we had the one singles match. 92 is where they really turned the corner. So Schmauch, for the level of newer fan that weren't around when they first initiated the concept, maybe didn't have as much of a tie to it. But in 92, when they started really filtering in pretty much almost all non-elimination matches, there was only one, and even that wasn't a true elimination match. What were your thoughts that year?
For the concept, I thought it was a great concept, and I think 92 was actually the worst Survivor Series show. And for the early Survivor Series, I had to put that as the worst show because you only had one elimination match, and you could have had like two more elimination matches. Like instead of having like Tatanka and Martel in a singles match, you could have had Tatanka crush Santana battling against Martel, Skinner, Terry Taylor, and Bam Bam Bigelow in an elimination match. And you could still have the same thing where Tatanka reclaimed his eagle feathers.
Right.
And then in another one, you could have had like Duggan, Jannetty Maxwell, and Lance Cassidy against Papa Shango, Domino, Berserker, and Repo Man. And it didn't have to be like a 20-minute match. It could be like under 10 minutes with quicker eliminations. And that would have made that Survivor Series a little bit better, but because they didn't, I just thought that show completely sucked.
Anyone else agree with that switch over? Ryan Everett, what did you think of 92? Did you, as a show as a whole, and also the going away from the concept?
Yeah, like I remember I remember watching the prime time before where they did the whole perfect turn and whatnot, and like I remember that was like one of the first prime times I was able to stay up and watch because I already got I was in second grade and I got straight A's on my report card, so I was able to get the pay-per-view.
Good job on that, by the way.
Oh, yeah, it was tough. Yeah. Religion really busted my balls that semester. But so I remember watching the show, and like at this point I had seen all the previous Survivor Series, and my dad had like kind of at the time he was like watching kind of like side glancing, watching it with me, and he was like, so we're getting this pay-per-view in 3 days. Are they going to do all those like big 5-on-5 matches? And I was like, I don't know, Dad. I don't think they're going to do it. I don't know what's going on. And it was just weird. It was weird how it was like just all of a sudden, without really saying anything, it was just like, and Survivor Series is completely different from what it was the first 4 years, it was around. It was weird. I mean, I thought the show itself, like even watching it, I watched it a couple of weeks ago, and I think it's a good show overall, but the tone overall is just so different from the first 4 or 5 shows. It's just it seems like a different pay-per-view completely from the first couple ones.
How about you, Zern?
I love the concept of the Survivor Series. It's probably like one of my favorite shows every year. But 92, yeah, I overall I liked the show, but it was definitely like different. And I mean, I know they like just lost Hogan though. They just lost Warrior. It was a different show, but it felt like a changing of the guard too. Because he brought Razor in. Brett and Sean were on top. I mean, it was a good show, I think, but it was definitely different and kind of disappointing that they didn't keep all the Survivor matches.
Yeah, how about you, Mike?
Well, I mean, I loved the theme in theory, but I think they loaded these cards up. They had so many of the wrestlers involved. When somebody would get fired or quit, I think it just threw the whole event into a tailspin. I mean, that happened.
Scott Casey.
Yeah. I mean, there's a laundry list of these situations where it's just if there's somebody, Bad News Brown, whoever's in the locker room, we need to fill a spot. And I think, that happened. It was kind of like I think of the big four, I think it was definitely the weakest of the pay-per-views. And I think it just, because of that, I think that was one of the reasons why they had to switch. And I mean, at first I didn't have a huge problem with adding the singles matches, but I think, it wasn't the same show. And I think then they started leaning really heavily on a lot of these gimmick matches, which, as a 10, 11, 12-year-old kid, it wasn't a problem, but looking back, some of this stuff was pretty silly and pretty bad. So.
Stick anything on a pole, though, it works.
Yeah.
Vince Russo must have been in there early on.
Yeah,
with that
he was writing for the magazine.
Well, maybe younger Russo was watching that show and he loved that Boss Man Nails match. All right, here's our first really meaty question. And anytime we're talking about a lot of meat, we got to go to Mr. D'Amato. So, what D'Amato, I cannot fucking wait for January to see you again at the Rumble, man. I am pumped up. Your favorite Survivor Series heel and face team?
Okay, my favorite face team was going back to number one. It was Steamboat, Savage, Jake, Hacksaw, and Brutus. I mean, it's just unbelievable. I mean, it was amazing because those three of them were like involved in like my favorite feuds of all time, like Steamboat Savage and Steamboat Jake, and then later on Jake Savage. So to have them like team together was just incredible, and it was also the way they built up Honky Tonk Man. I mean, he's just like a mediocre, not much, but you just want to see them tear his ass up. It was just, and that was just great. And also in '96, this is one that's like slept on, but it was just the amount of like future Hall of Famers in one match with Jake, The Rock, and Barry Windham. When they went up against Triple H, Goldust, and Lawler, it was that's like a lot of Hall of Famers in one match.
Yeah, that is a forgotten one. You're right.
Yeah, and in that match, an amazing out of all those. Jake got like the biggest pop out of all of them, and then he came out, and unfortunately, he came out with Revelations, and it looked like he ate Damien for breakfast and Lucifer for lunch, and some chocolate or something for dinner because he looked like a big fat sloppy pig.
Yeah,
it's just that match. It's just like you look at him and it's like 7 Hall of Famers.
All right, Mr.
And for my favorite heel team, it would be '88, the Heenan fam.
The one for the main event? Which one? The 88 or 89? I'm sorry.
Oh, 88, the Heenan fam. Andre Rude,
right.
Dino Bravo, Perfect, and Harley Race.
Right, okay.
That would be my favorite for the heels.
All right, Mr. Everett, how about yours?
Faces, I'd have to go with, since it was the first Survivor Series I actually saw, and right away, even as a 4-year-old, I was weird, and right away, even though he was son of a bitch heel, right away, Savage was my favorite guy. So seeing '88 Survivor Series, the Mega Powers with, the Mega Powers in Law, Hercules, and their weird jobber friends, Coco Beware and Hillbilly Jim. And I just loved that team, and like I watched that tape probably like 20 times over the Thanksgiving weekend. Just wore it out and was like, this team is it's the greatest 5-man team ever possible. I don't know how anyone will ever beat them. And then just as far as heel teams goes, it's got to be just as a as a smart nowadays, more refined, it's got to be Rude's Brood because they're just the greatest foursome of all time, I think. I mean, how can you beat Rude, Perfect, and the Rougeau brothers, especially when you factor in Rude's tights that night? It was just amazing.
Well, if we're talking Rude's Brood, that's a great segue to Mike Rude. How about yours?
Thanks. My favorite heel team was the '88 Heenan family. We already went through that group. And then my favorite face group was kind of like the Hasbro Figures All-Stars with Hulkamaniacs 89, Hulk Hogan, Demolition, and Jake.
Yeah, good call. That was the earliest kind of figure set there. Hogan, Demolition, and Jake. That's a match you could act out on your own. Well, at least the face side of it. Anyway.
Jesse the Body wouldn't like that.
That's right. Yeah, I watched that match again last week, and I was just dumbfounded again by that whole shenanigans, all those DQs and everything. It didn't even make Hogan look good. It just made him look kind of stupid.
He looks like a doofus the whole time.
Yeah. It's an odd booking. All right, Zern, how about you?
Just because you got a Z on your head doesn't mean you can do that.
I like from the '88 Survivor Series. I like the Twin Towers, DiBiase, Haku, and the Rooster. I don't know. I'm a big Twin Towers fan, so it's like I just love seeing those guys in there. Even 1990 Warrior, Legion of Doom, and Tornado. That was a pretty good face team. And going like more recently, I think it was 2006 when you had DX, the Hardy Boys, and CM Punk.
Yep.
So that I thought that was a pretty good team there, but I mean, it was hard picking it because I did write a bunch of the teams down, but I like that '88 Twin Towers DiBiase Haku team. Rooster was only scrub, but I thought that was a pretty good team.
And only really a scrub in the kind of gimmick name sense, as a wrestler he was.
Yeah, he could go.
Right, he fit in well. All right, Mr. Schmauch.
If I had to narrow it down, I would have to say my favorite team of all time is the $1 Million Team 1990. They got rid of Bad News Brown, which was never announced on TV, and replaced it with The Undertaker, my all-time favorite. He just impressed everybody that night. Because like when Scott said your brother was in attendance that night, it was like they weren't cheering or booing. There was like complete stunned silence as soon as he came through that curtain.
Who the fuck is this guy?
Absolutely.
For another team I like is the King's Court. When you had the Canadian Earthquake on that team, that was just, even though it would have been better to see the Widowmaker survive, Earthquake, well, obviously, Perry Windham injured, he couldn't obviously be there, but it's all right. And for face teams, I'm going to have to say the Hulkamaniacs 89 and the Warrior team from 1990.
That Warrior team's an interesting one. I've seen that pop up a little bit more often. And it's one I never really completely think about as face teams because it's kind of a weird match with Perfect and the three Demolition guys. Kind of an odd match there. All right, Mr. Willie, last up here.
Yeah, mine have been said. There's been some sucking up to you, Justin, with the Rougeaus and the Twin Towers. And I noticed that. So I'm going to suck up to Scott a little bit with the Warriors. Legion of Doom, the Warrior, and the Tornado.
Awesome.
I had 3 posters as a kid for wrestling, and Warrior, Legion of Doom, which is a whole nother story how I got that one, and the Macho Man. And I've already talked about my love for Kerry Von Erich before. You imagine the sheer amount of pharmaceuticals in that match?
Yes.
Yes. That was the Tampa Pharmacy match right there.
Yeah, and then just like the motto, the heel team of the Heenan family, except for Bravo, but looking at that, like the past, the present, and the future. The future kind of with Rude, present with Perfect, and the past with Andre and Harley Race. That's an impressive team.
And pretty crazy even too that Harley's the only one alive on that team. I mean,
he
was like the oldest of the match at the time, I think, and he's the only one still ticking.
They'll jump out of a wheelchair and attack you.
I was thinking about something with the '88 Survivor Series. I wonder if Bam Bam Bigelow never left, if he was going to be on like I wonder if they return if Hercules stayed heel, if he would have been on the Andre Bravo team and had Bigelow on the, I guess, take out Hillbilly Jim, put him on the Hogan Savage team.
Well, Bigelow was long gone, wasn't he?
Power? Bigelow would have been the Foster Mega Power like Hercules was.
if Bigelow had stuck around, because he left a while before.
Yeah,
that,
he
right?
left in like April, right after WrestleMania.
No, he left in July.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'm just curious if he would have been still around, if he would have been a part of that pay-per-view.
Probably.
Yeah, possible.
I would think so.
Scott, who are just quickly your favorite face and heel?
Yeah, well, obviously, I think it was Mr. Zern that took two of them. My favorite face team, of course, from 2006, DX, Punk, and the Hardys. My other favorite heel team, there's a tie. I think, Mr. Zern, you took the other one, which was the awesome Mega Powers and Haku and the Rooster and DiBiase.
Twin Towers.
In the Towers. And the other team, and we haven't mentioned either teams of this match. That's the opener in 1991. The awesome face team of Piper, Brett, Virgil, and Bulldog against the equally swank heel team of Flair, Mountie, DiBiase, and the Warlord. That was an awesome opener. Probably one of the best team versus team in terms of two awesome guy-for-guy teams in the history of Survivor Series. That might be my favorite Survivor match of all time, too.
If I could just say real quick, 24/7, usually with their themes, they get it all wrong. But this month, they got Survivor Series, and they got the Flair versus Piper team, the 88 tag match,
right?
WWF versus Alliance match, and I think Team Bischoff versus Austin. It's like the four best Survivor Series matches ever.
Yep.
Yes.
They
they did good.
They have them up there. It's amazing. It was.
Oh, they don't have Team Lesnar with all the talentless meatheads?
Yeah, they
find it have like 6 moves.
Morgan. Yeah, no, they just had to skip over that.
And Nathan Jones.
His lactating nipples. Yeah.
I thought Nathan Jones.
You're gonna get D'Amato excited again.
I'm disappointed that Scott didn't pick the women's match as his favorite team of Donna Christianello and
Judy doesn't. Judy, shut up.
Everyone knows that's the favorite, but it's unspoken.
That's right.
Christianello.
Oh my God! I can't discuss what went on in room 369 of the Richfield Ramada. A high freeway with Scott, Judy, and Donna Christianello.
Well, let me ask this. Let me ask this.
Versus Scott.
Let me ask this one to the old guys here, the ones that watched 87 live. D'Amato, Scott. Well, not live, but within days. And Willie, the Bomb Angels at the time. Willie, did they just? Were they just? How did you even comprehend them?
That blew my mind. I had never seen any type of wrestling like that before. Like I said, I didn't really have USA that much, so I didn't get to see some of the bigger matches. But they predated. I mean, really, the next time you saw stuff like that on a mainstream level was on Nitro with the cruiserweights. So 8 years earlier, they had two female wrestlers just totally, and they tore down. I like that match just because of them.
I think maybe we saw it a little before Nitro, if you want to count the Hakushi era, but
sure.
Your timelines are about right, though. Too. Yeah, still about 7 years. How about you, D'Amato?
Yeah, unfortunately, they didn't really have like any opponents that could keep up with them. So, they couldn't go to like that next level where, to really bring the women's teams up. But
I agree with you on that, D'Amato, because if you look at that match, all of my future sister-in-laws were all in that match. They're all, none of them could get up to mop the floor. But like all the young, if you could say Velvet McIntyre and Rockin' Robin had any work rate.
Good old hoes.
They were hot though. So
yes, then we heard Rockin' Robin sing, and all their attractiveness.
Hey, nothing gets Scott going like a nice one-piece bathing suit. That's for sure.
An interesting thing is that the Bomb Angels are still wrestling today. I recently saw them like a tag team match from Japan, and they just so like just as if it was like 1987 all over again. They were like impressive.
Wow, that's crazy. All right, Rudh, let's start with you on this one here. When did the show really turn the corner as far as important to you? 91 seems like a pretty good hallmark with the title match. Did you feel like that was a big show, or did one of the ones before that feel big to you? When do you think they just became a marquee show?
My first Survivor Series was 90, and I loved the build-up. Having Mean Gene, each week introducing the new teams, and all the Thanksgiving, kind of quips and things. And I think that once they moved away from the tag matches, it wasn't quite the same show anymore. And I think when you got into like the 92s and the 93s, it just started. It was kind of downhill for quite a while. So yeah, I mean, I saw in the question 91. And I think 91 was still a good show, but I think it was kind of headed in the wrong direction for a few years. But I mean, that's just kind of I've been kind of on a marathon of Survivor Series. I've watched probably 10 of them in the last week, so it's kind of a mess in my mind right now. When and where things changed for better or for worse. Yeah. But I think that it was 92 and 93. I think were pretty low years in my opinion.
How about you, Zern?
I think it really picked up in 96, like when Brett came back to go against Austin. I mean, the early ones were important. I think 91 was really important for, with the Hogan and Undertaker match there. And you can kind of see, like, Hogan starting to crumble a little bit with his fan support. But I think, like, it got really important in, 96. I agree that, like, 92, 93 were, like, kind of, down years. But they were just kind of, like, rebuilding the roster and everything. But 96, I felt like that was one of the most important shows because Brett was gone for so long. And he's coming back, and, he has this great match with Austin. And it's like, I think it really picked up around then, and I think you could tell like the next couple of years were really important too. So,
Willie, what do you think?
Well, 91 was important for setting up this Tuesday in Texas. So the Hulk Hogan and Undertaker match was huge at the time, but the rest of the card was they keep Savage and Roberts off of there, and to wait until Texas it was important on the level of the title change, which, was pretty rare at the time. And to elevate such a new talent, that was shocking that he won, especially only a year after he debuted. But that card was basically holding off, trying with the experiment on Tuesday. So, I mean, I would also say that would be an important one, but that 96 was really when it started to get the push. And, with The Rock debuting, too, it was kind of like The Undertaker of 1990.
Pretty good, yeah.
What do you think, Schmauch?
Yeah, I think 91 was the transition change because 91 was like a jumbled mess with. Because if you look at the original lineup in the program, it never ended up being that on the actual show, which I think kind of ruined the pay-per-view event slightly. But yeah, 96 I think was the callous change for the WWF at the time because
I was in my tunnel.
Because you had like a lot of interesting matches. And everyone was glued to their seats, and I think they're also seeing callous of changing of the attitude. Like there wasn't like the good guy, bad guy. You're just getting people booing Michaels and MSG, and people cheering Sid. Where I think Vince at the time was like, they're not supposed to be doing that. But like back in the early days where people were cheering, I guess like Jake Roberts over Hogan, they decided to just keep with Hogan and all that, but then in 96 they decided maybe we should go in a different direction. And I think it was a smart move.
All right, what do you think, Everett?
Yeah, I thought 91, like, I was still, just 5 years old watching it. It was the first time I watched it scramble, and it was like, oh, The Undertaker won. And I guess I got to figure out how to watch it scramble next Tuesday. I hope it works the same way, and it did. But I think, like, the whole thing was, I think the time I really figured out it was different was, like, 94 when Backlund won, and then it was, like, 95, Bret Hart won. So it was like, the title can change at Survivor Series. It's not just going to be, a title, like either the champs in a match, or even in 92 when watching, like, Bret Hart had just won the title, but you knew Shawn Michaels wasn't going to win the world title. He was, just became the IC. He was like a brand new heel, basically. Even as like a 6-year-old kid, I knew Bret was going to beat Shawn Michaels. So it was like, I think 94, 95 was when it started to become like a real, actual pay-per-view where things can happen instead of just the tag matches.
All right, so playing off that question, and one we're going to head to is, of course, favorite matches overall. But let me start with you, Rudh. What do you think was the first great match at a Survivor Series?
I like the both of the tag Survivor matches. from 87 and 88. I don't know if I'd consider them great. Probably, I really like the Macho Perfect Flair Razor match. I think that's probably what I would consider one of the better early matches.
How about you, D'Amato?
Oh, definitely the tag match, definitely the first one, because it was just like such an amazing sight just to see all those guys like on the apron. To see 20 guys on the apron was just for the visual alone, and definitely that was just a good way to start it off.
All right, Sean, what in your mind was the first great Survivor Series match?
I would have to say it'd be one of the from 87 or 88, those tag matches, the giant ones. I mean, I just watched them the other day, and I mean, they're amazing. I kind of, I mean, I like the Powers of Pain and Conquistadors kind of story, and that I think that was the 88 one too. Yep. But I mean, I love both of those. I think those are two of the better ones in the beginning.
How about you, Willie?
I'd say the tag match at 88 was the better match. 87 was what D'Amato said was more of the sight, and the Young Stallions won. The Young Stallions never won a match ever.
Never doubt Paul Roma.
Yeah,
what a surprise!
Somehow they actually survived that match, and I think that's kind of getting back to what we were just talking about a little bit. Like one of the big things with Survivor Series over the first maybe 10 years or so, actually less than that, like 7, 8, where like there are a lot of experimentation and surprises. The Backlund victory was just touched upon. The Undertaker victory, featuring new talent in a big way, and I think that's really what they were using with Survivor Series.
Everett, what was your favorite, or what do you think was the best? Let me rephrase. The first great Survivor Series match. Everett, you there?
Oh yeah, sorry.
Yeah, no
like Survivor Series, like traditional Survivor Series.
Any match, and the first just great match to occur at that pay-per-view.
I mean, like everyone said, the 87 and 88 tag matches. I think I was thinking about the other day, like 87 and 88. If you just take all the teams that were involved, I think 88 is probably better, just because you got the Brainbusters and Rockers involved. Also, you lose the Islanders, and you get the Conquistadors, I guess, but whatever. But just and also the first 35 minutes are just great matches, and then from 35 minutes into the end, you get the actual story of the double turn with Demolition and Powers of Pain. And then 92, it's, they're not Survivor Series matches, but just Savage and Perfect versus Razor and Flair is just crazy bedlam. It seemed like it was setting up an easy, Perfect Flair feud and a Razor Savage feud, which they never really did Savage and Razor. And then also the same pay-per-view, they had Shawn and Brett. It was a weird finish to a pay-per-view, I think, at the time. Neither of them really were proven as main event guys, but they went out and had an amazing 25-minute main event match.
All right, Schmauch, how about you?
I have to say the 87 tag match was probably one of the best matches, but 88, I consider that blew that out of the water with double turn. For an individual match, Taker Hogan for 91, because it was just because Taker won the title hands down, because he's my guy.
All right, Scott, how about you? What do you think was the first great Survivor Series match?
Oh, definitely the tag in '88. Although I agree with D'Amato that when you see that high camera visual of the '87 match, where literally the two tag teams almost touched each other, it almost looked like a lumberjack match almost. That was pretty cool. But yeah, definitely the tag in '88. Just all that talent and. Let me ask a quick question on a side note. For all the guys that have picked that match, did the Conquistadors in that match kind of did it ruin it? Could it have made it better? Could it have even been one of the best of all time if you didn't have such a strange team in that mix? For those that had that match.
I thought it worked. I thought it worked well with how the story went and how the match went. I mean, they were kind of like jobbers, but it's like they're hanging in there, and it's like I don't think you could have had any other team go in there and do the role that they did and have the angle get over how it was supposed to. So
I liked how it kind of like showed off like the Powers of Pain thought they were like too hot for their own shit. Like they'd hit like a flying clothesline on Uno or Dos or whatever, and but they'd hit it and let him go to his own corner and tag out. Like it wasn't like they were doing these great reversals to tag out. It was like they'd get the shit kicked out of them, but they ended up being in their own corner and being able to tag out to whoever. It was like I think it worked really well how they did it. Like it wasn't like they didn't look like world beaters at all. They looked like they were just lucky assholes, and it worked.
All right, let's really open things up here, and then we're going to take a break after this question because this could be a lengthy one. So, 96 and 97, two very memorable shows for different reasons. So what I want from each of you is what show you prefer to watch and just your memories of each. So let's keep this just a couple minutes apiece. Just quickly say your favorite and then your memories of the two, and do you consider these to be the two most memorable in history, really? Why don't we start with you, Mr. Schmauch?
I'm going to have to say the 97 one was the more memorable one with the screw job, but it was also the second to, well, to me, I consider it the last video made by Coliseum Video, but it was actually Rampage 97, which was Bad Blood, but to me, it was like the end of an era for Coliseum Video when they moved to WWF Home Video, because what a way to end Coliseum Video with Survivor Series 97, and an unbelievable screw job, if I do say so myself.
Billy, what are your thoughts of the two shows, and which one was better? Which one was this the two most controversial in history?
At the time, I think 97 was better in terms of storyline. The matches were, they were like 3-minute specials pretty much. It kind of went back to those days of those, early 88. What was that? And actually before that, the couple tournaments that you reviewed way back when, the non-pay-per-view ones. 96 was better in terms of match quality. If I were to put something in, I think I would go back to 96 more often because of the two big matches of Shawn versus Sid, and definitely because of Brett versus Stone Cold. So yeah, storyline for 97, but match quality for 96.
How about you, D'Amato?
As far as being memorable, I would have to go with 96. See, 97, when you bring it up, people think of it as more as like, oh, that's the screw job. People like Survivor Series is like an afterthought. And I figure, 96 is more like, traditional Survivor Series. And of course, partial to MSG. So definitely got to go 96.
Zern?
I'm going to go with 96 too. I mean, it had that huge debut of Flash Funk.
The shocking return of Jimmy Snuka.
They had Furnace and LaFon debut too, and The Rock, and great title match, great match with Brett and Austin. I mean, I can watch that show, whenever. I mean, that's an easy watch for me. I just like that one better. And there's a lot of debuts, and it's just a great show. I mean, 97 had the screw job ending, but 96 I thought was great. I just think it was a better overall show.
96 really is like a changing of the guard show. A lot of debuts. It's kind of Austin's coming out party. Just a very kind of almost a great table setter. To me, like 95 was the return of the promotion as a whole, and then 96 is kind of like the igniting of the Attitude Era at a very early stage. How about you, Everett?
Yeah, I watched like pretty much all the Survivor Series the last month and a half, and it was like, even when I was at like 94, I was like, okay, 96 is coming soon, and that's the big one, that's a big one. And I just think Austin, Brett, and then Michaels and Sid, those are like two of the best Survivor Series matches ever, I think. Just those two alone. And then The Rock's debut, what it ended up becoming. At the time, it was an okay match, but now with all the added, significance to it, it becomes much bigger. And even the opener, the tag match, it's just a good wrestling match.
Time's up.
You don't win the trip to Hawaii.
Oh, damn it. But yeah, I would say like, I think in 97, I remember like just being like, what the hell just happened? What was going on there? Like, it was just real confusing if you weren't really in the know. It was just like, what the hell is that? Like, the whole card itself was very underwhelming, I think. Like, it was Austin's big comeback, but he wrestled like a 3-minute match, and Kane Mankind was just weird in the red lights the whole time. And then the main event, like, they beat the shit out of each other for 10 minutes, but then the match was over, and no one knew what the hell was going on. And it was like 97 Survivor Series, I think, is the first time it was like, they didn't say it, but it was unspoken, like, tune into Raw tomorrow to find out what the hell's going on.
And the announcers,
they did that for the next 2 years.
And the announcers kept saying that it was Bret Hart's last match. So if they didn't say that, people would second guess themselves.
All right, Rudh, your thoughts on these two?
Yeah, I agree. I think 96 was really the best of the two. I mean, I was surprised. I watched both of these yesterday. And 96, top to bottom, was just incredible. And 97, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that it was just this kind of, it was really strange. It was probably the most foreign kind of all-around show that I can ever remember seeing as a pay-per-view. And, I mean, it was kind of the Canada versus USA theme throughout the whole night. And it just seemed like a lot of the Canadian wrestlers, Canadian themed, teams and things, they weren't even from Canada. So that just seemed kind of bizarre. And like the first couple matches, kind of the gang war teams, I mean, I kind of considered kind of some of the worst garbage of the whole, history of the promotion. So.
And Scott, how about you?
I agree with D'Amato that 96 really was the corner turning Survivor Series. Based on the card and the memorable debuts. I mean, it was both Rock's and in Austin's first Survivor Series, and Austin had a memorable match, maybe one of his best matches ever. 97, sadly, the show itself, other than the end, is pretty substandard. Obviously, there's a moment that stands the test of time. But in terms of overall shows, I'd have to go with 96.
Okay. So I'm going to throw this one out here. And we're going to answer when we come back from the break, so you have a minute to think about it. I'm going to give you some matches, and I want you to rank them in terms of the order you'd watch them again. It's just a few here. Bret Hart versus Diesel from 94. Bret Hart versus Bob Backlund. I'm sorry, Bret Hart versus Diesel from 95. Bret Hart versus Bob Backlund from 94. Bret Hart versus Steve Austin from 96. Bret Hart versus Shawn Michaels from 92. And Bret Hart versus Shawn Michaels from 97. I may see a pattern there. There's a guy who I think is one of the cornerstones of Survivor Series, and that is Bret the Hitman Hart. I want you to think about how you'd rank those matches if you had to bring them with you and watch them in order. And when we come back from break, we'll go through. And also after break, we're going to talk about our favorite non-Survivor Series matches. We'll talk about what we kind of envision Survivor Series to be today. And maybe we'll look at some of the more modern ones. We'll look at some of the ones from the 2000s, and also want to talk about the 98 tournament too. So we'll get to all that after we take this break and hear from some of our friends and sponsors and Scott.
Because
promotional consideration paid for by the following.
What I'd like to have right now.
Chad, do you ever feel that the world revolves around WWF?
I think you mean WWE there, Barf.
Yeah, whatever, but what about David Crockett?
She likes it!
Well, what about Jimmy Valiant?
I'm gonna get y'all until I get you, Paul Jones. Oh.
The Four Horsemen.
We are a family, and we are the best.
The Omni, the Dangerous Alliance.
Please welcome the newest members of the Dangerous Alliance, Arn Anderson and Larry Zbyszko.
Jim Cornette and the Midnight Express.
The Fantastics are putting the U.S. Tag Team title on the line against the Midnight Express.
Main events with actual work rate in them.
Woo! 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 All right!
It's just not fair to Flair.
It's not fair for Flair.
If this is what you're looking for, please check out Where the Big Boys Play podcast, the only pure NWA and WCW Supercard podcast out there.
While you were in Hollywood making movies, Thunderlips, I was winning world titles.
Well, there they are, our good friends Chad and Parr, Where the Big Boys Play. Now, if you want nonstop, old-school NWA discussion, dating back to that very first Starrcade, these guys have it covered. Even the PICs have made an appearance once. We are very particular what podcasts we visit. So check out our friends Chad and Parr, Where the Big Boys Play. Their link is right on our site, placetobnation.com. Just go into the podcast menu, and there they are, with the other great shows we partner with. Chad and Parr, working Where the Big Boys Play. Speaking of Place to Be Nation, that's your everyday home for your pop culture needs. At placetobnation.com, we have everything. Wrestling, sports, comics, even polls. We want your opinions as well. Every day there's something different with our top staff of writers who are experts in all fields of pop culture. From the weekly Raw review to the return of the hack, we've got everything you need. We're also working with a myriad of great podcasts. Of course, besides Chad and Parr, we have Grapple Talk, the Fans Podcast, Off the Top Rope, Answering the 10 Count, We Found New Music, and The Kings of Sport with Nate Milton. We've got everything for your listening pleasure. So check us out every day of the week at placetobnation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world. Now, don't forget about our good friend Graham Cawthon and the history of WWE.com. He's still the top source for all argument solvers, from match results to house show cards to pay-per-view histories. Any questions you need answered, any debates among wrestling fans that need ending, head over to Graham's treasure trove of information. You will certainly find it. Need to know what the opener of Starrcade 1995 was? What was the main event of that 1988 Boston Garden house show you went to when you were 11 years old? Graham can tell you. He has WWE, WCW, ECW results, and the growing results in TNA and Ring of Honor. So for all your wrestling research needs, check out Graham Cawthon at thehistoryofwwe.com. Now finally, if you want a place to just hang out, discuss all things wrestling with fellow diehard fans, check out the news and the great forums at twfnews.com. They have all the up-to-the-minute stories in WWE, TNA, and pretty much everywhere in between. They talk old school, Attitude Era, and even those hard-to-remember guys and shows like Waylon Mercy or In Your House Number 3. So check out all there is to see right on twfnews.com.
Hello, everybody. This is Bruno Lauer. I'm on The Place to Be. You're listening to The Place to Be podcast. You know why? Because it's like Mama says, it be that way sometimes.
All right, Nation, we're back. Hope you're enjoying our old school Survivor Series Roundtable. We have a great panel with us tonight. Everyone seems to be having a good time. We're getting the Survivor Series mood. And if you want to keep that mood going, Scott, make sure you visit PlaceToBeNation.com this week. Survivor Series week, leading right into the big pay-per-view. We'll have a live blog rocking Sunday night. You and I will both be watching the show live, and we'll have some of the crew hop in and out of there throughout the night to give you our takes as the show goes on. And, of course, tons of things. You're doing the preview this week, the written preview.
Yep.
So that'll be out. We're going to do our headline show Tuesday night to preview the pay-per-view. And we have a couple other special editions as well. The 5 count, Ben Morse is running that. That'll be Survivor Series themed as well. So keep your eyes peeled and glued to PlaceToBeNation.com as always. All right, guys, before the break, I gave you a question. I gave you 5 Bret Hart Survivor Series matches, and I want you to rank them for me in the order that you think you'd watch them. So let's start with Mr. Willie. How would you rank these matches, my friend?
This is tough. In order of where I would want to go see them, I would say Austin Hart 1, Backlund Hart 2, and the reason for those two up top is those are the type of matches I probably enjoy the best. Kind of that kind of wrestle, counter wrestle, submission style. And I would say Diesel, the first Michaels, and the last Michaels. So 95, 92, 97.
Okay. All right, Scott, why don't you write these down? We can compare. Maybe we'll assign points or whatever.
Okay.
Did you get those?
I was actually just opening the document now.
96, 94, 95, 92, 97.
Okay. Mr. Everett.
That's 5 to 1 or 1 to 5?
1 to 5.
Okay.
It's like that was his favorite. That was his favorite to his least favorite.
Yeah,
I-
D'Amato, Scott, and I play bingo each night. That's what it sounds like.
Exactly. Next time you bring the Jello mold.
I-7. All right, Mr. Everett.
Yeah, I gotta go Austin Brett as the number one because it's probably the last great technical wrestling match I think in like North America really until like even Angle Brock at WrestleMania 19 like because then you got that match and then 6 months later you got the WrestleMania 13 match which brought in the Attitude Era and everything changed from then on out. And then after that, I'd have to go probably Brett Diesel. It's even like kind of like a precursor to the Attitude Era where, they're not doing hardcore stuff, but they're doing stuff with like an edge to it. The first table bomb. They start the match by taking the turnbuckle covers off. After that, I'd probably go with Brett Sean at 92 Survivor Series. It's something that I've come to appreciate a lot later. Like when I watched it originally, I wasn't that big into it because I was like, oh, Bret Hart just won the title. He's facing Shawn Michaels, who's still, he won the IC title, but he's still just, a nothing, and he'll beat him. And just watching it now, though, it's 20-minute match, back and forth action. Heenan still commentary. It makes Michael seem like a person, like an important person. And then I go 94. It's a real good technical match, but it's just so damn long. It's like it's one of those matches where it's a good match, but you can't. I don't think you would be able to show it to people like who are just becoming fans nowadays because it's 40 minutes and 25 or 15 minutes of it are in a friggin' submission hold, and it's not exciting. And then last I would go the Screwjob match. I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but it's just the ending of it is so odd. You don't know what's going on, and it's just all of a sudden the match is over.
All right, Mr. Zern.
I'd go with Austin and Brett first. Diesel versus Brett second. It's a close second, though, because I really love that match. The HBK from 92 third. The Screwjob from 97. And the Backlund one last. And it's not that I think Backlund's a bad match. I think, like they were saying, it's just long. You really have to, invest in it. And, I love Owen Hart in that match. Like, him on the outside, I think he's hilarious. And the Screwjob match, I'm kind of, done with the Screwjob match because it's just, I'm sick of hearing about it now. It's that's all you hear about. That's all you I'm done with that. So it's I'm a little tired of that one. But, I don't think you can really go wrong with a lot of these matches either. Brett pretty much, he was real good at Survivor Series, so.
All right, Mr. D'Amato.
Yeah, Austin would be the top one, and the second would be the Backlund one, primarily because, like he said, because of the drama with Owen. Owen was just so awesome in that. And third would be the HBK 97, and the fourth would be the HBK 92, and last would be Diesel. Not that it's bad, but it's just as far as this list goes, that would be the last.
Mr. Rudh.
I'll go with the Screwjob for number one, just because there's been so much speculation about it, and there's so many layers of it, and just to kind of try to make sense of it. And I haven't watched it probably nearly as many times as the rest of you guys. So if I had to pick something to watch, 5 times in a row, I think just to try to kind of see what's kind of behind the scene, kind of try to just make sense of it. Number 2. Hart Austin 96. Number 3, Backlund match. Number 4, Bret Hart Shawn Michaels 92, and last the Diesel match.
All right, Mr. Schmauch.
I'm gonna say Austin Bret number 1, just because it's an excellent match, and shockingly Austin trying to do a submission hold, the $1 Million Dream he hasn't used in 5 months. Number 2, Backlund Brett just because you just believe in the raw emotion. Owen Hart actually cared for his brother or was feeling sorry for his brother. And then you get suckered in and then you fell for the trap. Number 3, the Montreal Screwjob, just because of how historically important it was. The Michaels Brett match from 92, and then the Brett Diesel match last.
All right, and Scott, how about you?
Well, I would obviously go with the Austin match from '96. Still one of my favorite matches of all time. After that, it's kind of a tie, but I think maybe JR, since we've talked about it so much, I think I got to put the '92 match, Brett Sean number 2. I think we appreciated that match a lot more now as time has progressed. Then Brett Diesel '95. Then Brett Backlund '94. And then the screw job last, because other than the last 3 seconds, match's okay. It's kind of sloppy, but I think just in terms of match quality, I think that one is the best. Is the worst. So.
All right, let's do this. So, did everyone go?
Mr. Rudh, can you just give me yours again? You were breaking up a little bit, at least on my end, so I just want to make sure I have yours right. What were your 5 in order from best to worst again?
Screwjob number 1. Austin number 2, Backlund number 3, Sean 92 for the 4th place, and Diesel last.
Okay, got it.
All right, Scott, while you tabulate the points, Mr. Schmauch had an interesting factoid he wanted to drop on us about 1987. So while he talks about that, yes.
You weren't going to rank him?
No, you guys go. Go ahead.
Okay, all right, no problem.
Oh, all right, what the hell? Brett Austin, number 1. Brett Diesel, number 2. Brett Backlund, number 3. Brett Sean from Survivor Series 92, number 4, and then the Screwjob, number 5.
Okay, I shall tabulate.
All right, Schmauch, go ahead.
Okay, well, the whole thing with Survivor Series 87 and Starrcade 87 was that Vince basically told the cable companies, if you don't carry Survivor Series 87, you're not going to carry WrestleMania 4. Now, according to Meltzer, he said that WrestleMania 4 is basically going to be sold as a pay-per-view event with very low closed-circuit locations. Now, if let's say if all the pay-per-view companies in the United States chose, you know what, we're going to air Starrcade 87 instead of Survivor Series 87. Now, the pay-per-view company might lose money with that, but when did WWF lose money on that? That could have essentially made a low buy rate for WrestleMania 4 because Vince is like, I don't believe this. That they chose Starrcade 87 over Survivor Series, and now they're not going to get WrestleMania 4. We're losing money here because the only way it's going to be successful is if a lot of people internationally buy it. Because wouldn't you say that could essentially backfire if all the cable companies said, you know what, screw you, Vince, we're picking Starrcade 87.
Oh, I think it definitely could have backfired. But I think he was bluffing a bit. A. And B, I think he was pretty confident they were going to pick his product because they were more proven on pay-per-view than NWA was at the time. So I don't think he was probably risking too much in saying that because I'm sure he was fairly confident that he was going to be the one chosen. So, okay, Scott, what are the totals there?
Well, I was doing a numbers tabulation, but obviously totally dominant. Everybody except Mr. Rudh picked the 96 match from the Garden at number 1. After that, the most second places go to the 94 match with Brett and Backlund. And obviously Rudh took the 96 match second. It seems like the match getting the least love is the Screwjob. 4 of the 8 picked that the worst of their matches. So 96 was at the top. 97 was at the bottom, and looks like Brett Backlund got most of the love in the middle.
All right. Well,
looks like the average was 96.
Okay.
94.
Well, you can finish doing the points. Okay. We'll go to the next topic I want to throw out there. For those of you, we'll go quick through this one, that watched 98 live. Your memories of the Screwjob in the tournament with The Rock. Did you see it coming? How big of a shock was it to you? And did you like the way they did it? Let's start with you, D'Amato.
I wasn't really shocked. the thing was, it was just like so many shenanigans during the whole thing. I mean, it was just so, with Patterson and Briscoe, so nothing really shocked me. It's a big clusterfuck, so it wasn't.
All right, how about you, Mr. Rudh?
I did not watch it live, so I don't know. It's been actually quite a while since I've watched it. I mean, and just looking at, kind of the results. I mean, there's 14 really short matches. So, I mean, it's kind of the Attitude Era formula. It's kind of what my opinion would be. So.
All right, how about you, Everett?
This was one of the Scramble Vision classics, I think, and I remember this was one of those ones where I was calling my cousin every 20 minutes about what just happened. Oh my God, I can't believe, Mankind beat Al Snow. Let's talk about that for 10 minutes. But at the end, I was a big Mick Foley fan, and seeing The Rock, turn corporate, it pissed me off, and I was turned off for The Rock from probably a good 6 months until right around Backlash is when I actually became this guy, I don't care if he's a heel, he's pretty damn funny. He's hilarious talking about all the trailer park trash that are fans of Austin and Mick Foley. But at the pay-per-view itself, I think it's Vince Russo's shining moment as a booker. It goes to show that, if booked correctly and, if he's contained in one spot, and he's got people book checking him the whole way, he can do something right. And that I think the 97, if Vince Russo is ever applying for a job in a wrestling promotion, I would say he just gives them the 98 Survivor Series tape. And that's it. That's his legacy, I think.
All right. How about you, Zern? What are your memories?
I don't think I watched this one live, but I like how it turned out. I think that was actually a good swerve. The tournament itself, I wasn't really thrilled with, but the way they had it set up, I mean, it all worked out. It all made sense in the end. So, I think it worked out well, though. I did. I think it was good for The Rock. I mean, I know he was catching on as a face, but it's he was so awesome as a heel during this time too. So, all
right, how about you, Willie?
I had mentioned before. I talked about the 3-minute specials. I was thinking of this one. I got confused with 97 and 98, which just shows how bad the undercard was on 97.
Mm-hmm.
With this one, I did like all the different swerves. It got to be a little too much at the end. What I didn't like, and I thought they could have changed. This is where I went back to those early, the mid-'80s tournaments. With Heat, you could have put some of these first-round matches, without your Stone Cold. You could have put them on Heat and made them a little longer, instead of just having 2-3 minute matches. I just did not care for Big Boss Man during this run, except for the comedy stuff, and he was all over the show, both him and the McMahons. This is kind of nitpicking, I guess, but this was one of the biggest shows at the time. They just had such a huge roster right now.
All right, Mr. Schmauch.
Yeah, I knew something was going on with when you saw Shane McMahon screw Austin. You're thinking there's gonna be a screw job at the end of the show. Whoever the McMahon side with. Essentially, that's who they went with, and they went with the Rock. I think they probably could have had most of the elimination, have some of the elimination matches on Heat, or maybe just have them on Raw, and maybe just have the sort of like King of the Ring, just have the the final 8 on pay-per-view instead of having, and then you could have some actual Survivor Series elimination matches. Because that's the only year that didn't have any.
All right, Scott, are the votes in?
Yes, indeed, the votes are in. And here you go. Now, I ranked, obviously I went from 5 points to 1 point based on what you guys graded. So here's the totals. In 5th place with 17 points was the Montreal Screwjob match from 1997. In 4th place with 20 points, the 1995 Brett Diesel match. Third place with 21 points, the 92 match, Brett and Sean. In second place with 23 points, the 1994 Brett Backlund match. And with an overwhelming first place total of 39 out of a possible 40 points, Austin and Brett from 1996. So they're your totals.
All right, here's a rapid fire one. I just want you one answer, no explanation needed. Best Survivor Series team name. This is a Willie suggestion, so we're going to start with you. Everyone else think of yours, and we'll go right around the horn.
The Visionaries. Martel, Warlord, Power, and Glory.
Nice. D'Amato.
The Teamsters, 94, with Diesel and Sean.
Zern.
Rude's Brood.
Schmauch.
Born Fanatics.
Ooh, good one. Mr. Rudh.
Yeah, I'll go with the Foreign Fanatics, too.
Interesting. Mr. Everett.
I gotta go Visionaries. It was a dig at the other team. It's great.
Anyone left besides me and Scott? All right, Mr. Scott.
Combination, even though it was very generic, the Heenan family, but otherwise, definitely the Visionaries.
Oh, man, I'm gonna go Rude's Brood, but I think the Visionaries takes it. So good stuff there.
Rude's Brood was the other one I was thinking of too.
Oh, they're both so good.
Enforcers was also a good name as well.
Yep, Enforcers is a good one as well.
Roddy's Rowdies.
Yeah, 4x4s. So many good ones.
Much as the team was a mess, the name was good.
All right, so
Bischoff.
I am going to Bischoff. All right, let's turn a little bit here and talk about more of the modern ones since like maybe 2000-ish on. Maybe just pick a couple that kind of stand out to you as the best ones since the turn of the century there in 2000, really when things started to kind of turn around a bit. So let's start with Mr. Zern. Favorite one or two shows from the last 15 years or so, like 2000 on.
I liked 01 just because of the whole, kind of like control of the company Survivor match from 2001 with, Team Alliance versus Team WWF. And I liked the 2005 or the 2003 when Austin's job was on the line. I like that one where he was counting on Shawn Michaels to, help him out. And that kind of like established Randy Orton too, because there was like 3 or 4 years in a row where that dude was just final survivor winning these huge matches. So, I mean, I personally like those two. And 2002 is really good too with the Elimination Chamber too. So there's a couple of my favorites right there.
All right, Mr. Everett.
Well, I tried watching pretty much all of them the last couple of weeks, and I really like 02 is really good with the Elimination Chamber, like Sean just said. And also, I really like 09 with the two triple threat title matches. It's got Taker versus Jericho and Big Show, and then Cena versus Michaels and Triple H. I think those are pretty good. And then 2011, I mean, anytime you go to Madison Square Garden, it's going to be the crowd itself is going to be pumped. And you got Punk versus Del Rio, and the match itself is what it is. It's not great, but just Punk's got Howard Finkel as his guy, and then you got the main event of Rock and Cena teaming together. I mean, sure, it was against R-Truth and Miz, which, nowadays sounds ridiculous that was a pay-per-view main event, but at the time it made sense. And those were, I think all three of those were pretty big shows at the time and made sense at the time also.
All right, how about you, Mr. Rudh?
I liked 01 and 03. I watched 11 this morning, and I mean, the last maybe 4, I think, just all kind of blend together to me. It just seems like they're just a lot of the same faces, just kind of, kind of exchanged in the order of who they're facing. I mean, that's kind of, I'm a lot more of a casual fan in the last 4 or 5 years, but I thought that the main event for the 2011 was pretty weak with The Rock, Cena against R-Truth and The Miz. I would say that's one of the weakest main events of any pay-per-view I can think of.
All right, Mr. Schmauch.
I have to say the 4 ones I like the best in the modern era were 2006, because that had like 3 or 4 elimination matches and a few legends appearing. 2002 with the Elimination Chamber. 2009 is like the elevation of Drew McIntyre and Sheamus. And 2001 with the whole alliance and against WWF, and he also sort of utilized the history. Like if you saw the opening of the intro, they actually show all the logos with the over 50 years, which was the best opening intro for, in my opinion.
All right, how about you, D'Amato?
It was already said, but the 02 and 11, which I was fortunate enough to both attend live, and 02 especially because that was the first pay-per-view I was able to make live, and that was incredible with the Elimination Chamber and Heyman turning on Brock. And 11 gets crapped. I agree, the main event is crappy in 11, but people forget the great Del Rio Punk match was awesome. So I would, of course, I have to go with those two.
All right, how about you, Willie?
Well, I didn't see a lot of the mid-2000s at all, and now I want to go see the CM Punk Alberto Del Rio match, but I would say 01, 02. 02 not only had that Elimination Chamber, which is the first Elimination Chamber, I believe, but it also had, your SmackDown 6. It was like a triple threat match in there. It's a cruiserweight match in there. And the Brock Lesnar Big Show match. They were awesome together. And then 01 obviously was trying to see where a lot of the WCW, ECW guys would fit into the mix, the whole payoff of the Alliance storyline, even though it wasn't the best, but I think it was just a pretty memorable pay-per-view.
So let me ask you guys this, I'll throw it out to the field. Where does 02 rank with the greatest shows? I mean, everyone mentioned it as one of their favorites of this last 12-year stretch here. Do you think it fits in with some of the best Survivor Series editions? Anyone can answer that if they want.
Oh, I would definitely have it up in the top 3, definitely.
How about you, Sean?
I mean, I don't know. I still think 96 is like really good. And then I mean, me personally, I think it's good, but I love the early ones better. Even if the quality of the matches isn't as good, they're more memorable to me. I feel like the 2000s, they kind of all blend in. I mean, I know it is a good show, but for me, I'll just watch something from 1990 or 91 before I'd watch 2002. And it's no slight on the pay-per-view like that one itself, but that's just what I prefer.
All right, so maybe we phrase it this way then. We'll start with you, Mr. Rudh. What are your top 3 Survivor Series shows if you're bringing with you? We talked about the Bret Hart matches, kind of ranked them similarly. Your top 3 favorites if you could only have 3 Survivor Series DVDs to watch forever, what are they?
I'll go with 1988, 1990, and 1996.
All right, how about you, Schmauch?
87, 91, and 94.
Right, Everett?
I gotta go 87, 96, and then probably 2003, actually.
Interesting.
The later one, but yeah, I like those 2 big Survivor matches.
How about you, Willie?
02, 90. Because I like the Survivor matches and the Ultimate Survivor match kind of pay off to that. And 96.
D'Amato?
87, 89, and 02. And just one more thing about that 02, that elimination tag match with the Guerreros, Edge and Ray, and Angle and Benoit. That's a classic. I mean, come on.
Zern?
88, 91, and 96.
Scott?
88, 2001, and 2002.
Wow, so not 96?
Because other than the last 2 matches, the early stuff is. I mean,
wow. I mean, those are great matches.
I love 96. I do love 96, but I think the
opener's
01
good too.
Yeah, it is. I think a lot of people are. I think the undercard of 01 is being a little discounted, but Another great match that makes 02 that great. I mean, is there a better women's match than that Victoria Trish match? I mean, they made themselves. I mean, they busted each other open for God's sakes. I mean, they went all out on that one. But no, I like 96. I just think 01 is. Maybe I put him as a tie if I had to have a fourth one, because I think 01 gets understated a lot. Besides the main event, I mean, the main event's awesome, but I think the undercard of that show is pretty good too. A lot of people forget about.
All right, did everyone go for theirs? Okay, cool. All right, let's look at this then. Your favorite non-elimination match Survivor Series matches. So just give us a couple. Let's start with you, Zern.
Well, obviously the '96 Brett and Austin match. I really think the Sid and Sean match too from that year was really good, and that's probably one of Sid's best matches. I like the tag match from '92, and the Hogan Undertaker match from '91 wasn't like great, but I thought it was a great moment when Taker won. So I mean, I'd probably go with those ones right there.
All right, how about you, Rudh?
Sean versus Sid, Macho Perfect versus Flair Razor, and Hogan versus Undertaker.
Interesting that the Hogan Taker there, 2 for 2. Let's see if it keeps going, Everett.
I gotta go Bret Austin. That's just like I said earlier. It's one of probably the top 5 matches of all time for me. And then also the other 3, I'll go a little more recent. 07, Batista, Taker, Hell in a Cell with Edge making his return and whacking Taker with his camera. And then 09, the triple threat, Cena, Taker, Triple H. I just watched it yesterday, and it's a lot better match than I remember it being. It's good, like, you know, it's got Michaels working against Triple H, where Triple H doesn't really want to attack Michaels, but Michaels doesn't give a shit and just super kicks Triple H right to start the match. Pretty good stuff.
All right, how about you, Willie?
I would say, Bret Austin is one of my favorite matches of all time, and I was at WrestleMania 13. I think Survivor Series was better than that one. I think that's number 1 for me. I also liked Brett Backlund, and really those are the top 2 that I can think of off the top of my head.
All right, Schmauch.
My favorites are Taker Hogan, obviously. Other ones are Taker Yoko the casket match with Chuck Norris super kicking the hell out of Jeff Jarrett. It would have been funny if he would have super kicked Bigelow or Bundy. But obviously they weren't going to go.
They had to be protected.
Bossman Nails. I just like the cop and convict thing. That I always like that feud. Brett Backlund was another good one. Another one I like also was the Rock and Roll Express Heavenly Bodies from Survivor Series '93. That was like
kind of a hidden gem.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
All right, D'Amato, how about you?
That elimination tag match that I mentioned from 02 is kind of forgotten. It's kind of slept on. But with those 6, it was just amazing. The Guerreros, Edge and Ray, and Angle and Benoit. And the Elimination Chamber, of course, from 02 again. Just seeing Sean come back when you thought he was like done for good, and you know he came back to win the title. And 11, Punk and Del Rio, and of course Hart and Austin.
Did everyone go except for Scott? All right, Scott, how about you?
I have to say almost the exact 3 matches that D'Amato picked. The Bret Austin 96, the Chamber, and a tie between Punk Del Rio and WWF against the Alliance in 01.
All right, so to each of you, what does Survivor Series lie today for you? Do you still consider it one of the big 4, or have one of the other pay-per-views crept in and taken that slot? Do you still feel like it's a special show? Next Sunday, you're going to order it, you're going to watch it. Do you feel it's still like a must-see? Let's start with you, Everett. Just quick thoughts. Is it a must-see? Do you still consider the big 4, or has it been replaced?
I think, you know, I'm not, you know, a long-time hardcore fan. It still is one of the big 4, even though, like, I know it's not really that important. It's as important as, you know, Hell in a Cell was or whatever. And, like, me and my buddies were talking about it earlier today. Like, should we get it? It was like, yeah, I guess we'll get it, but we don't really. There's no real big need to get it. It's not like, oh my God, if we miss Survivor Series, we're not gonna know what's going on. But it's just one of those things where like, you got to get Survivor Series, you got to get the Rumble, you got to get Mania, you got to get SummerSlam. It's just those are the 4 pay-per-views, even though they might not be represented as the 4 biggest anymore. It's just, I think if you've been around long enough, those are the 4 big pay-per-views, and you know that you got to get them.
All right, how about you, Rudh?
Well, I was reading on Wikipedia that they were actually going to axe it after 2009.
Yeah,
I don't know if the rest of you guys know that. And, I think there's, kind of an uproar from some of the older fans that, they had a lot of attachment to the kind of the name Survivor Series. And I, again, as a casual fan, I couldn't name out of the 12 monthly pay-per-views, I couldn't name half of them, but I do know Survivor Series. So, I mean, it is, to me, it means more than a lot of the other pay-per-views. Well, am I going to order it? I mean, right now I'm looking at, it's a week out and there's 3 matches and, none of them really do a whole lot for me. I mean, and like most of these, kind of like what I was just saying, over the last 3 or 4 Survivor Series, if these matches were already, on one of the other, 2011 or 2009 or 2010, it wouldn't surprise me. Or, I mean, it just seems like it's kind of interchangeable. It's kind of the same guys kind of, being shuffled around in the card. And it's kind of surprising looking back to some of the earlier, eras or Survivor Series or pay-per-views. They leaked out these, they kind of built up, some kind of importance. It was important because Mean Gene was on every week telling you what was, here's the new teams that are coming out, and it was like kind of a surprise lead up. And it just seems like it's just at the last minute they just kind of dump all these matches out. And it's like there's no time to really I think it's just because they have such a compressed schedule to kind of build up these shows. But it's to me it's not the same.
How about you, Schmauch?
I still consider it a part of the Big 4, but I would like it's still a good event because of the longevity. If they would have axed it in like 2009, 2010, I still consider it part of the Big 4, even if they'd stopped doing it. As for ordering it, I would just find a live stream because I'm not going to pay like $50 to order the pay-per-views. So I just do a little Google searching and just find a live stream because there's always going to be live streams for pay-per-views out there.
Okay. All right. How about you, Mr. Zern?
I think it's definitely lost importance. I think Money in the Bank has kind of jumped ahead of it now. I feel like they just haven't put a lot of emphasis on it lately. So, I mean, it sucks, but yeah, I think I look at it as Big 4 just because it's been around since the beginning, but I don't think they look at it as important as it used to be. So,
all right, how about you, Willie?
Well, I would say it's not even in the top half. I would say definitely Money in the Bank's number 4. I would say the post-WrestleMania show over the last few years, whatever it's been called, Backlash and Extreme Rules, and I forget what it was this year, would it be next as well? And I don't think it needs to be. That's the sad part about it. And I'm going to come off as a Ring of Honor fanboy for a second, and I'm not one, but the last few months has been great there, and they all kind of led into the Survivor Series style match that they just did at Glory by Honor, which it was 73 minutes, and they can't do that today on WWE TV, but you can do 3 Survivor Series matchups, maybe have 5 or 6 total, and make them have stipulations so the matches would mean something. And I think people would watch it. What happens is with these last few years is that the cards that are not your big couple, they're all interchangeable. Nothing really stands out. And it just shows, I've seen almost every pay-per-view this year, and I can't tell you which matches went where, except maybe with SummerSlam and WrestleMania.
How about you, D'Amato?
No, definitely not. I agree with those guys that Money in the Bank has passed it as one of the big four, and I don't understand why they can't have at least one or two, traditional elimination matches, for the month to separate it from the rest of the pay-per-views, because otherwise it's just another pay-per-view. So I don't know. I'll throw it out there to you guys. Why do you think they don't have the elimination matches? That they don't sell, or they don't like them? What's the theory behind that?
Yeah, I think they think that they're not going to sell. I mean, I think they just want to have as many marquee matches as they can. I don't get it. There's so many damn pay-per-views. They're all so interchangeable. I don't see what they think. How about you, Scott? You with us, Scott?
The mute button unmuted. There's so many. The problem is they have so many feuds going on at once that they're not. These guys stop thinking outside the box. Hey, in 1987-88, they would take 3 feuds and put them together into an 8-man tag, like you were talking about, D'Amato, with a couple from 87 and 88. I don't know why they just don't do that now, because guys just think differently. That's why the writing is so substandard at times there, because they just don't think outside the box and be like, look, we got 3 concurring feuds. Stick another feud with the Wyatt family and Punk and Bryan and add more guys to it. But they don't think that way. They're thinking this is a feud. We have to stick to this feud. It has to end with this feud instead of layering it. And it's stupid. It's just a lack of foresight, in my opinion, on the writer's part.
Well, and Scott, what you're saying, it's not even that hard to do. You throw your heavyweight championship match in there, whether it's WWE or the World Heavyweight. You throw some sort of one-on-one or tag team grudge match, and then you have 3 Survivor Series matchups. Maybe a tag team one, one with your main event guys, and one with some of your younger up-and-comers, and maybe bring up someone, 1 or 2 guys from NXT to debut, like they would do back in the day.
And also, what I think really hurt it was like in 09 and 010, I think, or 10, I think, was when they had bragging rights. The month before Survivor Series, they'd have these big 7-on-7 elimination matches. And then the next, I know 010, or in 2010, it was, SmackDown versus Raw at bragging rights. And then the next month, not even the next month, it was like 4 weeks later, it was, 3 guys from Raw and 2 guys from SmackDown against 3 guys from SmackDown and 2 guys from Raw, fighting against each other because, Del Rio and Mysterio didn't like each other. It was like, okay, so what's more important to the people, being on SmackDown or their feud over, being the best Mexican wrestler in the promotion or whatever, whatever their feud was. It was just stupid. It was just like, if you're going to have a big tag elimination match, why not hold off until Survivor Series? Why do it at a pay-per-view that you just made up and you do it 3 weeks before Survivor Series?
For bragging rights, clearly.
Yeah, well, obviously, you get a big trophy.
Well, it is. All right, guys.
And they ended up getting rid of bragging rights after 2 years anyway. I won't be surprised if they would have had do an elimination match on the kickoff show.
Yeah, true. I mean, like 96 again.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to just wrap with this thought. I'm just going to say the words Survivor Series. I want to know the first thing to pop into each of your heads when you think Survivor Series. Like, what is the number one memory you think of, Mr. Everett?
Thanksgiving Eve with friends. You got the day off you got the day off from school the next day. You just got some buddies together and come over and they sleep over at your house and watch a pay-per-view.
Mr. Rudh?
Jesse Ventura with the pilgrim hat and the fur vest.
It's a good one.
Took mine.
Mr. Schmauch?
The Thanksgiving Eve thing, you got Thanksgiving, then you got Black Friday shopping, then you got the weekend off, and then Monday you go back to school. And Taker debuting at 1990.
D'Amato?
2 words. Gobbledygooker.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Zern?
He took it. I always think of Jesse in the pilgrim hat and
not you, D'Amato. I don't want to know about your gobbledygooker.
Orgasmic.
Orgasmic gobbledygookers. All right, Zern, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's Jesse in the pilgrim hat and Gorilla introducing us to the very first one. So I always think of that when I hear the Survivor Series.
Willie?
I think of the Richfield Coliseum, which was to me is more Survivor Series than Cleveland Cavaliers. And I think
they perform better than them.
For sure. I think the Thanksgiving tradition and the tag team matches.
Scott?
The idiotic move by Mr. Fuji to dump the World Tag Team Champions Demolition to pick up the Powers of Pain and then never touch the tag titles ever again.
Everyone calls that the greatest double turn in history, except for the fact it made no sense.
Zero sense.
Actually, the reason why they did it was because the Road Warriors turned heel in the NWA, and Vince wanted to prove that the Powers of Pain were the Road Warriors. But then when the Road Warriors ended up turning face, he decided to keep the Powers of Pain heel and keep Demolition as the champion.
No, I think Mr. Fuji trumped all that because he had stroke.
Fuji made the call.
All right, when I think of Survivor Series, of course, I think of mums. I would say I agree. I think it's the Thanksgiving Eve. Always having my friends over for my birthday and watching those shows leading into Thanksgiving. I always made Thanksgiving one of my favorite holidays. That weekend's always one of my favorite weekends, best weekends of the year. And Survivor Series on Thanksgiving Eve is always a huge part of that. So, all right, guys, we're going to wrap up. I want to thank each of you for joining and each of you for donating and being so generous to the Making Strides Breast Cancer Awareness Fund that we had a couple of months ago. And appreciate all the support, both with that, the website, and the podcast. And Scott, we'll be back Tuesday night. We're going to do some quick headlines. We're going to preview this year's Survivor Series. And I believe we're going to have little half-baked ideas making their way back to the show. So we'll be doing that. And then next week we'll be back on another short week with, of course, Backlash 01. And then we'll be taking a holiday off. So for the crew and for Scott Criscullo, I'm Justin Rosero. Thank you all. Everyone enjoy Survivor Series. Enjoy Thanksgiving. And Scott, we'll talk to the rest of the nation on Tuesday night. Take care.
D'Amato, Cristiano's single.
The chef's team.
And I hear she carries around the gobbledygooker in suit. So if you're into that, you should put it on for you.
If the room 369 at the Richfield Ramada could talk, there was a sign on the door that said, "If these walls are rocking, don't come a knocking."